Hello and welcome to another episode of FinTech Focus TV with me, Toby. Today I am absolutely delighted to have in the studio Chris Burke from Brickendon Consulting. Chris, we've got so much to speak about today and I'm really excited to get into. The consulting world has been absolutely manic of late. We've been hearing loads about the regulatory landscape and change is very much the mot du jour. Loads and loads to unpack and all of that, but before we get into it all, can you tell us a little bit about Brickendon Consulting, please?
So Brickendon's consulting firm, we founded in 2010. The reason we came about was about implementing actual change. So what we'd sort of seen in the market prior to that is people talk a lot about change, maybe do a nice PDF, a nice PowerPoint, but actually getting into the nuts and bolts of changing the processes, changing the tech, that's why we came about. And so we've been sort of around since 2010, operating in UK, Poland and India now, and an office in the US, and that's basically our reason for being.
And that whole world, as I said before, of change at the moment has been massively increased, hasn't it, over the course of the last couple of years? We've seen digital transformation take enormous strides. Has that sort of coincided with real take up of Brickendon? Is it? Cometh the hour, cometh the consulting firm.
I think we found off the back of Brexit, there was a general concern in the large financial firms we work with to not actually implement things. They were holding off decisions. Then when COVID hit at the start of 2020, we were in a position that a lot of firms, again, were holding things back. Then they realised all their business models had to change and the accelerator went down, and we've been incredibly busy for the last couple of years.
Yeah. And navigating people through periods of, I guess that when we look at what's driving that change, there's been digital transformation, but there's also been a lot of regulatory change, which is, I guess if you started in 2010, that was right in the eye of the storm of regulatory change. Right?
It was.
We've seen things develop at pace all the way through, and it hasn't gone away, and it's not going away. Tell us about what the landscape looks like in that change in regulatory space.
Well, I think what we've seen is, as you've said there, we've had a lot of change come through over the years. It does tend to come in waves, and we do find that firms, rush to get something done, then they take the foot off the accelerator, and then rush again. We're seeing at the moment, having completed the non-dollar LIBOR changes previously, that firms have now sort of taken the foot off the accelerator, and 12 months from now we go live with dollar LIBOR, which is going to be a huge impact on firms that I think a lot of people are a little bit late to get themselves up and motivated to make those changes.
I think the motivation aspect is a really interesting one, isn't it? Because you're right, it does feel like last-minute homework when regulation comes up, doesn't it? I mean, if we go back to some of the major things we've seen over recent years, MiFID II in particular just felt like an all-out panic towards the end of it. So I think when you're seeing these changes happen, and as you say, June's the deadline for double LIBOR. What's your advice? What are you seeing out there? You're seeing this complacency, or maybe over-regulation and regulatory
fatigue. Regulatory fatigue.
Come into play. That's a natural sort of thing with so much stuff that's come through, but it's obviously not the right pathway to it, because there's going to be an awful lot that needs to happen at pace over the course of next year to catch up with that. And it does feel like a long. If you're talking about June 2023, it does feel like a fair whack away, doesn't it?
Absolutely. What's
your advice? Tell us what's happening. What are you talking to companies about at the moment?
I think at the moment we need companies to realise that getting prepared early is going to mean that they're not going to have that mad panic at the end. There is very good opportunity right now to get these things done, so you're not going to be sitting there in Q1 or Q2 next year and really struggling to get your clients across the line of the changes from dollar LIBOR to the new rates.
And I think that's an interesting play, isn't it? Because people will look at that and see those sort of manana sort of mentality to it. But if you're sat there and you're talking to customer or clients who are sort of sat there in that sort of mentality, what is the shift that makes them suddenly think this is actually something which we need to accelerate into? How do you articulate that to your customers?
I think just understanding the scope of the change. When we're changing one of these reference rates, we're changing contracts, we're changing valuations, we're We're changing the way we run settlements. There's an enormous number of changes that need to happen.
Yeah.
And those things can't happen in a few days or even a few weeks.
Yeah.
If we're talking about the bank's legal team talking to a client's legal team, sorting out some of these changes, and then all the systems, processes that follow on from that, it is a lot of work, and it isn't something that can be done in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
So the early preparedness would get you to a state where you're not going to have this mad panic at the end. And there's no reason not to do it now, because everything's set up to do it as from now.
And so with companies who've got increased compliance and regulatory teams that have naturally come to life because of everything that's changed over the last decade or so, why do people reach out to a Brickendon to help do that? Obviously they're paying for expertise and their peace of mind and knowing that this is going to get done, and this is your day job, right? So this is where it comes into it. But tell us about the value that you can bring.
So what our USP is we're very, very good at running change in regulated environments. That's if you're going to strip back across anything that we're doing, that's what we do. So when you look at scaling up a team, or you're looking at some complex change situation, we will come in, we bring experts in who know at a very high level of competency the details of what needs to be done, and then we put our methodology to run that change. So the significant thing that we do, I think, compared to some of our competitors, is we hit the dates on budget and on time, and that's it sounds cliche. But that's I think why we have been so successful over the past 12 and a half years.
Yeah. I guess that's that's pretty much essential when you're looking at this sort of stuff as well, right? If you're thinking about what's important in a change like this, that on date and to time and to budget is critical.
Absolutely.
So get your crystal ball out and have a look at what's going to happen in this, because no matter how much we talk about this, there's still going to be companies there that are in that panic. That sort of that last 6 to 3 month chase or whatever in 2023. How do companies avoid that? I think you probably answered a little bit of that beforehand, but also, what are the implications for businesses that are chasing? What are they going to have to do, and what does it feel like for them on the other side when that's happening?
I mean, once the changes happen?
That's before they get to that specific phase. So let's say that people are maintain complacency at the moment and say, we'll get to that. So, we've got a load of stuff going on at the moment. Let's say they wait and they do wait late to make this. What are the implications to them of that happening? What's that look like for them?
Well, I think first of all, understanding the scale of the problem. So there might be a little bit of ostrich, head in the sand situation where firms aren't really aware of exactly what the scale of the change that has to happen.
Yeah.
Then once they've assessed that, they're going to go through that phase of, oh gosh, let's use that phrase. We have.
I've heard that many times.
In other ways, we've now got all these clients, all these contracts, all these systems that need to be changed to make this happen.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you'll get to that stage of mad panic. They will then probably all go to market at the same time, be looking to bring in resources with the skills of which there will be a contracted pool.
Yeah.
And as we saw with everything from Dodd-Frank to EMIR to MiFID to GDPR, all these things as they've come through, we've seen that talent pool skyrockets in terms of price. So again, in terms of just if they're looking even at their budgets to make these change happen, it'll be much better to get on the board early and get it done before you're then in that feeding frenzy.
Paying with a gun to your head.
Exactly, when everybody's trying to do it, and you'll find that talent that maybe isn't at the same level will be charging a premium price because they have some experience in this domain, whereas you'll be able to get the best talent early on and be far more cost effective.
Get ahead of the game. That's interesting, isn't it? And with that, let's look at the implications. So companies do get this wrong. They then can't find the talent to be able to implement the change necessary for it. They're left holding the baby a little bit with it in June. They haven't got everything in line. What's the implication there?
Well, there'll be regulatory concerns, and then obviously the rates stop coming through. So they're going to stop publishing IBOR rates in June next year. So you won't even be able to value those instruments going forward. So there is a real implication.
This is significant.
It is a cliff.
Yeah. And it applies, I guess, across the industry as well. So everyone's getting involved in this. Everyone's thinking about this, but people from your understanding and your view aren't moving quick enough just yet.
We've seen this in other regulatory change that's come through. There's sort of a general
Yeah.
General
You've got a
fatigue,
trend.
it is that regulatory fatigue, but it also is a situation whereby you have so much change has happened that people do want to pause and take breath, where a little bit more structured approach going through saying, yes, we're going to get on board with this, getting it closed off, and things will be much more structured.
So there's your answer. So
I think we're sort of looking at the dollar IBOR change as being bigger than any of the others, obviously being dollar. And the last paper I read said there was going to be $74 trillion of instruments that needed to be transferred.
Wow.
So if you're thinking about that's still the scale of the problem, there is an enormous amount of work to do for firms.
And the companies that you're working with now getting ahead of this already?
They're starting to mobilise, but I think there's still some way to go for someone to get to the same pace that they were doing the previous IBOR transitions, because we've gone through a lot of the non-dollar IBOR changes at banks. So now we're onto the
so it's nothing new. People should know.
Something they should know what to do, but this is obviously bigger and potentially more complex as well. So
complexity.
And I think one of the areas that the smaller firms particularly may not be on top of this, like the bigger firms, so they need to sort of understand where they are so that they're able to not leave themselves exposed. Because if we do end up in that war for talent, the smaller firms will find it much harder to get that talent.
Because they just get blown out by it.
Exactly.
And do you see that as an adoption curve? Do you see the bigger companies going earlier and then the smaller companies following, or is it more nimble?
No, it's definitely the bigger firms and the leading firms move first.
Just because they've got bigger teams to look at.
Bigger scale of the problem, and bigger budgets really for this change. If you've got
so sort of tier 2, tier 3 banks that you're looking at to give you rattle your saber, give you a call to arms, and say come out and get involved in this.
Exactly.
I'm also interested. You mentioned it beforehand, right at the top of what you were talking about your the setup of Brickendon, because you say, look, it's 12 years. We started the same year. 12 years of really successful growth, and it's a company I've heard about consistently all the way through the process. You've done really well, and I think it's with consulting, there's a lot of stigmas sometimes that get put around it, particularly when you have a model there, which you mentioned beforehand, where you've got UK presence, and then you're also looking at Poland and India alongside that as well. Now, get that right, and it's electric. Get it wrong, and it's not quite so promising for customers. Talk to us about how you've got that right, and what's how that works as a model for you.
So, if we look at the first 6 or 7 years at Brickendon, we were a firm that operated primarily in the UK with a little bit in New York, and we were leading the teams here to do the change. We were finding that we were working with clients who wanted to get the lower price points or blended rates that you could achieve working in lower cost locations. And that really is outside of London and outside of New York. So in New York, people were looking at Florida, they were looking at North Carolina, Dallas, etc. to get a lower. Within the UK, it was to look very much into Europe and to see where you could get a blended rate. So we were continually working with firms in those locations contracted by the banks who we weren't able to control the quality of what those teams were doing. So in 2017, we made a decision to open in Poland. So we're about to hit our 5th birthday out there, with the idea that we would go in with the same model we had here, which was very talented, very firms with a lot of expertise. So people with a lot of expertise to bring into our firm. Where our model differs from other consultancies is we go and hire people out of the line. So we would take someone who'd spent 15 years in Bank of America working in their prime brokerage business or their head of market risk. That's the person we'd hire. We wouldn't hire from a consultancy who'd sat on the outside. So that sort of deep domain expertise has always been our model. So we've taken that same model to Poland, and in the last 12 months to India, with the idea that we can now bring up those teams and run that change. And it's been very successful for us across all our clients in terms of driving that change, but also being able to get a better price point.
I think you mentioned it there. It's a word which I use a lot, which is talent, or 2 words I use a lot, which is talent density. So I think when you go into there's 2 ways of doing it. There's the classic sort of body shopping sort of sheer weight of traffic, or there's actually looking for domain expertise, and within that there is plenty, right? And you're talking about two countries there that are jam packed full of talent. when you're hearing people looking at that and they see that within your sort of armory, how do you give them the comfort around the sort of talent that you've got within that business?
So we haven't changed our model in terms of guaranteeing delivery from London. So if we go and sit in the London office and we're running a program from here where we have talent in other locations, that hasn't changed. If it was 10 people in London or it's 2 people in London and then 8 spread across Poland and India, that hasn't changed. I think the second thing that I would probably say is that over the past decade, there has been a big shift in talent in the Polands and the Indias. Where those two countries differ from other areas is the scale. So if you were to go into some of the other Eastern European countries, you would not get the scale you can get in Poland. Similarly, India has an enormous pool of talent. I think the stat I read a few weeks ago is that there's more engineers created every year in India than there are in all of the UK.
Is that right?
It's something along those lines. It's a stat along those lines.
Yeah.
So we have enormous talent.
It's not surprising actually when you think about it, is it? Yeah.
But we've now been able to hire in India people who have been running global programs from India, on their own. So we've got. I would actually say that the quality that we're getting in those two countries in the first year or two of the business has been stronger than we originally got in the UK, which is really quite something, because I think we've come with an established brand and those sort of things. So we've really been able to do that and to control that quality. So our business is all about ensuring quality of delivery, and if we're not able to do that, then we don't have a business, quite frankly.
I know you travel a fair amount within that as well, but talk to me about the sort of challenges, I guess, of building the teams out in those environments, because as you say, look, you can have fantastic individual talent. I've got some friends who are doing exactly the same thing, just recognising the pockets of talent elsewhere to get around the talent shortage that we see full stop at the moment. But I think where the differentiator for me, where talent thrives in those sort of areas or falls away, is around the level of leadership and how you set that up to thrive. So I imagine you've got really strong leadership teams in both. How did you manage that?
Well, a very good question, I think, and that's we did find some challenges with that on our expansion early on. So we moved Bala, who's a partner in the business. He's moved out about 3 years ago to Poland, and to run Poland for us from there. So he was very senior in the UK team, 20 plus years experience in financial services. He's moved out there and really ingrained our culture in Poland as we had here. We are now, I guess in terms of India, we've again got someone very senior, Advan, who runs that for us out there, and we've known him for a number of years. We're making a lot of regular trips out there to make sure that the culture and everything is ingrained within the business out there. And that, from our point of view, we look at that as the most important thing. If we don't look after our people, we don't invest in them, then we are not going to be able to serve our clients. And we've had, I don't know how many people now have come to us and said, we're staying here because of Brickendon, not because of the client work we're doing. That's really important to us, that we really look after those.
So I'm really interested in this. This is sort of a personal project for me about sort of maintaining culture as you go into different cultures, physically in different countries. And I'm interested the way you put Bala, I think you mentioned out in Poland and was able to sort of build the culture. How much are there culture clashes between what you'd say is the classic sort of this is who and what we are, we're putting it into a different culture, particularly in India, where I've heard some brilliant stories recently. There's a FinTech focus with ComSize who've really adopted the culture of both businesses over to the India and UK operations. Tell us some of the sort of lessons that you've taken out of I guess imposing culture, but also accepting and ingraining cultures from both of those different countries as well at the same time.
I think for us as a firm, we've always been a meritocracy, which is very important to us, and that we don't care who the person is or where they come from. We literally, if they've got the talent, they move up in the organisation. I think taking out a people first. So when we look at our strategy, the very first thing is our people. So we have 3 things that we go through: our people, our clients, our thought leadership. They're the 3 pillars to our business. Looking at our people being the first thing and making sure we often talk to our employees about family comes first. So if you've got a sick mum or a sick child or a sick dog, go sort that out, then come back and be passionate about your work. And that's a really big thing to us. So that message going into other cultures seems to resonate with us. And I think the other side of it is we don't pay lip service to that either. We actually really believe that, and there'd be dozens of examples of people who've gone on full pay for leave, for illness, for compassionate leave, or whatever that is across our 12-year history. That I think is a standout in the organisation. I mean, we don't want people to come to work at Brickendon and go, okay, I'll work at Brickendon. Our stated aim, on our goals is to have staff and clients as fans. So a fan is evangelical about your business. They actually love working there, but that goes two ways.
Yeah.
And if we didn't genuinely care about the people who work for us, we wouldn't be able to carry it off.
Yeah. I love that whole raving fan sort of concept, isn't it? About people there who are not only just embedded into it, but will go out and talk about it and spread the word, which has obviously been good for business growth as well, I imagine.
I mean, unbelievable. I mean, we've had some of the best years, or the best years we've had. We're bigger now than we've ever been. We're almost double where we were a couple of years ago, and it's been very, very strong. But that's again because that culture now is ingrained, and that's now going down. That our top level, next level, all think the same way. And then as people are coming into the organisation, they're getting that message that we do genuinely care about them and want to look after them.
And I guess that came to the fore, didn't it, particularly over the last couple of years? And there's two things I want to talk about on that. Number one is the sort of challenges that you faced in those early days, and I imagine a lot of those values you mentioned there were critical in sort of keeping things moving at that sort of time. And I think any consulting business, by nature, people-led business, would have had concerns as the pandemic gripped. I think I mentioned to you before that I was driving home with a friend of mine on that, who's a partner in a consulting firm, and we were both just sat there saying, right, we've got no idea where this is going to go in March 2020, and yet within a matter of months they sort of came through and everyone was set and consulting came to the fore like never before. Now within that, as things became more remote during those sort of periods, and businesses were never been bigger before and doubling sizes, etc. That became there also were challenges there about culturally embedding teams who hadn't necessarily met or worked together and all those sort of things. You mentioned the word thriving with Brickendon a couple of times, so that's obviously been managed really well, and you've put some thought and care into that. How's that work for you?
So there's a couple of things that we looked at in terms of how to make that work. So during those COVID years, or COVID periods, let's just say, we had a situation where work became relentless. So you were locked in your house, and for example, in Poland, for example, they were locked in their house. They weren't allowed to leave. We were at least getting some exercise in the UK. You were not allowed to leave your apartment block. It was pretty severe.
There's different levels, weren't there?
So people are falling out of bed at 7 o'clock in the morning. They've sat their kids down to do what and they're jumping online and they're working. And until 10 o'clock at night, people were working, and we were watching our people go through this phase, and then we realised that this was not good for anyone. So we had a situation that we what we implemented was between 5 and 7:30 in the evening, you were not allowed to work.
Okay.
It's quite simply, we're not allowed to work.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a bizarre thing to implement when we've got all these challenges for clients, and we just said, tools down, go and have dinner with your family, go and take some time out, read a book. If you are allowed to leave your home, go for a walk, do something, whatever, just get away from work.
Yeah.
And the reason is because it just became dawn till dusk. Every day, and we just saw that the well-being of our staff was declining, and we just weren't happy about that. We then did the things that other firms, a few other firms we know of did, where we did, online quizzes, team meeting. We made our team meetings a lot more friendly, I guess, in terms of, right, where are we with this, looking at just, the kind of conversations you have in the office when you walk to have a cup of coffee and you talk about something. We made sure that they came into our daily stand-ups, because without that kind of connection, then people, it was just work. So there's a number of those different things that we really felt were important.
And how many of those have you continued on? Because I think that's a really interesting thing. I think a lot about legacy from that period. Mm-hmm. So there are loads of things that I can think about in our business that have been much better, post. I hesitate to say post-pandemic because everything's still. I've just had another meeting cancelled because someone's got it, so it's back in play a little bit. But if you're looking at the sort of eye of the storm and where we are at the moment, there's still various bits and pieces there where you want to go back and you want to look at those, and you want to look at what you've improved efficiency-wise throughout your business.
Sure.
What are some of the things there that are here to stay? What are some of the things there that you think, right, because of that, we're a better business?
So just this morning, I've come off one of our team's call, and we're currently looking for, I think, somewhere about 200 people to come into various projects that we've won, and that will almost double us again.
Yeah.
And on that meeting, of which we've got more to cover in that 30 minutes with the global leaders of the teams and the resourcing teams, we spent the first 10 minutes just talking and joking about the weekend.
Yeah.
So that again is very important. But we've got teams in 5 locations in Poland, 2 or 3 in India, Scotland, and also in London.
Yeah.
All those teams come together. We still need to make sure that we're able to work cohesively as a team.
Yeah.
The second part of that that I guess has gone back to normal is we have quarterly get-togethers where the senior team fly to the various locations, which is what you saw for me a couple of weeks ago, where
fun.
I was living on a plane and going from one, working in the morning in the office, and then or travelling in the morning, work in the afternoon, party in the evening, which can get quite tiring when you're on your 4th or 5th dinner in a row. But it is very important to get out, see people, and see them face to face.
Absolutely.
And people are always a different height when you actually meet them face to face for the first time. So
I get that a lot.
It's one of the funniest things where you meet someone and then you realise that they're this big or this big, where you didn't realise they were going to be. But that's been really important. So I think those two things are, if you're running a global team now and people are remote, coming in and just badgering on about work is not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah.
People want those kind of conversations.
It's more human, isn't it?
It is, and it actually. The flip side of that is when people know each other a little bit better.
Yeah.
They then start to work better together as well, and so that 10 minutes is essential. It's not wasted time. I think that's the thing that people who've got a lot of deadlines on their plate may not realise.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it's good stuff to take away from this for sure, and I think it's actually a responsibility of business leaders to make sure that continues to happen as time moves on, and that becomes more of a memory. Let's finish by talking about the future. Tell me a little bit about what you expect to see as trends in the sector, and tell me a little bit about what the next 6 to 12 months looks like for Brickendon. Growth sounds like it's heavily on the agenda.
You and I do not have our crystal ball out at the moment, but I think the challenges we're seeing at the moment with inflation, it's going to get to a point where it's going to crack.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know when, I don't know how severe that's going to be, and I don't think anyone could really talk with confidence. But when we're talking the kind of cost increases we're all having, that you would have to presume that at some point in the relatively near future, that's going to stop, and firms are going to have to say, well, we cannot hire as many people, and that will spawn a whole number of other changes where they will look for technology change to come in and take over some of the resource-heavy tasks. So that's general. I don't think that's exactly brain surgery, but it's something that I'm not hearing people paying attention to enough at the moment in client conversations. It's just, we need 20 more people for this project. But if the budgets and the people are demanding the wage increases they are, it's going to get to a point where that's going to stop being sustainable.
I agree with that.
So that's the first thing. I think we're going to see a large number of changes on the I think in terms of the banks that are realigning and getting more and more, technology focused in their changes and looking for just to continue on this path. I think the thing that we've seen with COVID is it really pushed that digital transformation further forward than all the pushes that were coming. But I think people now realise that all these business models are going to have to change, and in these enormously complex organisations, we're going to see that's just going to continue.
Yeah.
The price or the wage price cost pressures people are under at the moment, that will also accelerate the tech change.
Yeah.
And so, and I think we're going to have a big divide between winners and losers as people invested in that and those who haven't.
Yeah, I think there's massive technology change coming for sure, and just as the pandemic swept a wave of opportunity within that for the agile technology companies.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is another phase of growth and change coming, where there'll be winners, as you say, winners and losers.
Absolutely.
And there's definitely opportunity within that. I think sometimes people can sort of back themselves into submission sometimes with it, but those who are playing the offense and seeing opportunities to how to improve efficiencies and optimize processes for companies, there's a lot to be done for that, and tech is the answer again.
So I met with one of our very large global banking clients, and they said to me the other day that they've changed at the top level their metric around the cost savings they're expecting from technology change, from 20 to 40%.
Yeah.
So they're now looking at, and that's a relatively new thing, that they've effectively doubled the efficiencies they're expecting, or the headcount reduction they're expecting from the technology projects they're putting in. And that becomes a big shift, and that now is the metric that they need to get funding internally to drive these projects.
Yeah.
So if you can't show us a 40% reduction in headcount, you're into the second queue basically.
Wow.
Which I thought was an enormous reduction in people that they're looking to do. But that will spawn on a lot of jobs in terms of creating that change.
It's disbursement of roles 100%. Into different areas, isn't it? So let's finish by talking about Brickendon. What's exciting for people to hear about the business, and who should be getting in touch with you, and how do they do it?
So I think the exciting thing for our business right now is the scale of the change we've got going. We're working very extensively across capital markets, across wealth, across commercial banking. There are so many changes coming in. A lot of without getting too many specifics in there is reg change coming through. There's tech change. We don't see any slowdown at the moment in terms of our business, and we've just gone through 200 heads. We're expecting that to near double in the next 12 to 24 months, depending on, assuming we can get the people, which is a challenge that all firms are facing.
Yeah.
To get in contact with us, we can give my email up, which is chris.burke@brickendon.com, or info@brickendon.com, and we're happy to have a conversation with anyone who needs some guidance. Whether that's us doing some sort of free assessment for them, which we're happy to do as well in terms of various areas.
The Sherpas through the regulatory minefield coming up.
Exactly.
Like the sound of that. Chris, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on the show. Thanks so much for coming in and sharing all that with you. And thank you all for watching. We'll see you soon on our episode of FinTech Focus TV. Thanks a lot.